We are starting on the second phase of the underground, which is going to be the grease waste system. Ain't that right, Scott?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that look like a small crease?
Back here on site Monday, June 3rd, we're starting the grease waste system. We started it on Friday. We got Jeremy, Noah, Aiden. We got Scott behind the camera. We're going to work around all these guys. They're putting rebar down. They're supposed to be pouring footings today. Probably got about 35, 40 more stub ups to put in the building. So let's get started. So the problem here is that this string line runs only to a certain distance to the edge, to the corner of this building, which is right there. A invisible line that we measure off of. We're supposed to measure off of a line that comes off of this edge of slab right through here. So what we're gonna have to do is pull another line from that nail, which is column line 1, hit that nail head, column line 1, and we're gonna extend the line over to this point, right over here, so we can get our measurements over in this section where our grease waste is. When I'm telling you guys about the X and Y measurements, we go to the plumbing, the underground rough end plan. And you see these dimensions right here, an X and a Y. All these fixtures right here have a X and a Y dimension coming off of them. So what I'm doing is having Aiden and Noah pre-glue some standpipes, which are the pipes that extend out of the slab. Those pipes extend out of the slab and they're pre-made, and what I do is have them write the X and the Y coordinate on the standpipe, so we're not having to go back and forth to the plan, and we're not having to look at a piece of paper constantly, and it's just a hassle and a pain. Let me show you. Pre-gluing the trap, putting the dimension on the standpipe riser. The biggest issue we have with these type of jobs, especially restaurants, is that the building is normally about 5,000 to 7,000 square foot, and there's a bunch of plumbing inside of the building. That means we have to move lots of dirt right through here in order to make measurements and get them super accurate. That dirt can't interfere with our tapes. It's tough for us to get solid measurements because we don't normally have a flat surface to work off of. So what we do normally is we have a skid steer out here, and as we dig, we remove the dirt out of the pad so we have a flat surface to work off of, and that way we don't have to deal with mountains of clay and that interfering with what we're trying to get accomplished. Every trap has got to have a vent. That upstream end is the vent that is intended to vent these fixtures downstream. That's a P-trap. That's got its own vent. That's a hand sink. These traps have got a drain with an 1/8 of an inch slope to its vent. This is a horizontal wet vent. This P-trap, all these P-traps connect independently to the vent. They cannot drop on a 45 or a 90 until they hit a vent. Once they hit the vent, they can do whatever they want to do. Same for this vent right here. This system, this horizontal branch, that is a floor sink. That's a wet vent for the fixtures discharging downstream of that branch. So that's how these fixtures are vented in a grease waste system. Now when you get into toilets, the venting gets a little more tricky because fixtures discharging downstream of water closets or toilets, they have to be independently vented. That's why we have multiple vents over there on the sanitary side. They're finally building the form boards that I was telling you guys about right here. All right, so now we've got to the point where we can set our floor drains and floor cleanouts. The way we do this is we go by a benchmark. A benchmark is a reference point that is set for the finished floor elevation inside of the building. They set their form boards in relation to the benchmark that they set right here. This rebar right here is what they knock in the ground to give them their elevation for their floors, or their finished floor. We set our grade stake right here on top of the form. These forms are flush with the finished floor. We take our laser reader and we adjust to this laser level to come down to the mark. And you can hear it. We're too low now. All right, once you hear that continuous beat, we know that we're flush with the floor. What we have here is our floor drain. We have several floor drains inside of this building. The floor drains need to sit below the concrete. We've got to have slope to every drain. We adjust this reader to sit a 1/2 inch below the floor elevation. We're probably within a 5/8 to a 1/2 inch increment. But the nice thing about these drains is they are adjustable. So as they pour the concrete when we're on site, we're gonna be here when they start pouring. So when they're on site and they start pouring their concrete, I can adjust these floor drains as I need to, up or down, to make sure that it's perfect whenever the concrete is completely done. Now we're gonna go around to our cleanouts. So what we do with our cleanouts, we raise those up about a 1/2 inch above the floor. The reason for that is because they tile to those floor cleanouts. Those floor cleanouts need to be flush with the finished floor. And we also insulate around the threads to make sure that we have adjustment after they pour. The tile is usually about 5/8 above the finished floor, but we keep our floor drains about a 1/2 inch for just some good adjustment on the finish end. Right now we're gonna reset this laser to make sure that we're dead on everything. All right, so now that we have this thing established with the finished floor, which is concrete, this is going to be our reference mark right here, okay? That's our reference mark on our grade stick. So on the grade stick, what we do to set these floor cleanouts, they have to be a 1/2 inch above the floor minimum, but we need to be 5/8 ideally, because what they do is they put a 1/8 inch mortar and they do a 1/2 inch ceramic tile on the floor. With that thin set and that 1/2 inch tile, that brings it up to 5/8. It's okay if we're within a 5/8 to 3/4 increment. To be honest with you, I'd rather be a little bit lower. And so when they pour concrete, it gives us more adjustment. And if it is 3/4, we have adjustment in the finish top to make sure that if there is any type of like fluctuation in the floor, those finished tops are gonna raise up to an inch. So we don't have to be super perfect on the rough end whenever they pour their concrete, but we wanna make sure that we're lower than we are higher. If you're higher, they don't have room to work, because there's no adjustment really down once it's all said and done. There's only adjustment that goes up. That's why we're gonna be here for the pour. When they're pouring, it only helps us out because we have so many floor fixtures. If you could see the pad right here, all right, so we have about 35 floor fixtures inside of this building. Say 20 of these are off. Guess what we gotta do? We gotta chip concrete. Who wants to do that? Nobody. Now that we know that our floor cleanouts sit a 1/2 to 5/8 above the finished floor, concrete, we're referring to not finished as far as tile goes, but above the concrete floor. We know that our floor drains need to be at least a 1/2 inch below the concrete so they can slope. That's what their intended purpose is for. So I'm gonna go around and show you how we set these floor drains to the proper height. So this is our finished floor elevation. We've done marked it. That's our reference mark for the finished floor. I'm gonna show you on the form. The forms are not gonna be perfect, but they're gonna pour their concrete to the form, so they have no choice. The concrete goes where it goes. The benchmark, they set their forms according to the benchmark. The benchmark we know is the finished floor elevation. I set it to the benchmark, there's no issues down the road. So we know this is our finished floor. What we do to make sure our cleanouts are perfect, this grade stick gives you increments of quarters and halves. All right, so we're gonna drop from my reference mark down a 1/2 inch. We're gonna go down to this mark. And that's gonna raise, what that's gonna do is raise the grade stick, and I'm gonna show you how that works. We know we gotta come up. It's not even reading, okay. So we know we gotta come up. The arrow's indicating that we need to come up, all right? So we got adjustment on these right here too, which is nice. All right, now how we do the floor drains is a different method here. So we're gonna go back to our elevation right here. Look at the marker. We're gonna go back to our reference mark. That's our finished floor right here that we marked with the benchmark. We're gonna raise this up, which is gonna bring the grade stick down. And that's gonna give us a 1/2 inch below slab. Right here is gonna be our 1/2 inch right there. We went exactly about a 1/2 inch. Now these can be off of an 1/8. That's okay. As long as you're a little lower than a little higher, because there's always adjustment on the trim. The trim is the finished top of the floor drain or floor clean out. So we need to come up. See that right there? We're probably 3/4 low. So we're pretty close. I'd say within an 1/8. That's okay. Always a little bit lower on floor drains. Leave yourself room for adjustment. I'm gonna show you the finish tops inside of these clean outs. These are inside of these floor drains. These are Zern floor drains. Chick-fil-A specifically requires us to use Zern products. We buy these products from HJC. We use Zern cast iron body cleanouts, Zern plastic body floor drains, and some are cast iron body floor drains. It just depends on where they're located inside of the building. I'm gonna show you. So when the concrete's poured, the concrete's gonna come up to this point, okay? It's gonna come right up to this lip. Say we're done, we're ready to put the trim on. We bring this up. All right, see this right here? That's our finished top. Concrete's gonna be here, okay? Concrete's gonna be there. We're gonna keep that sticker on to protect the fixture or the floor drain. The concrete is not gonna protrude inside the floor drain. So we can still adjust this however high we need it before they tile. And when they tile, they're gonna meet the bottom of this floor drain body, and then they're gonna tile right to the finished plate of this floor drain. That just makes for a good product there and finish. We have soda sleeves that are going to be put in the ground for the Coke guys. They come in towards the end of the job and they pull their beverage bundles inside of a pipe, and we install the pipe underground. It's a 6-inch diameter pipe, and that allows them to be able to run their pipe overhead, and then they drop it inside of a chase. All right, so these things are supposed to be 10 foot 7 inches apart. I got my 90s lined right up with it. So we are going to cut the difference from this hub to that hub, and it should work out perfectly. All right, we got 9'1" there from hub to hub. So I'm gonna show you a little trick. Whenever you're cutting pipe, do not cut it while it's sitting flush or flat on the ground, because it's gonna bond up on you and snap or break, and it's just aggravating. All right, notice I didn't cut all the way through the pipe. I didn't cut all the way through it because I need somebody to hold this end up. It's got too much weight on it. So we don't want this pipe to snap, because if I cut through it, there's too much weight on this end, it will snap. So just keep that in mind too.
Here's some short soda sleeves.
Oh yeah, we're gonna cut these in half. These don't have to be tested. All it's doing is acting as a sleeve for the soda guys, Coca-Cola. All right, now let's make sure we're at 10'7" from center to center. Right here. Hold it in the center of that pipe, or grip the edge of it. 10'7½", we'll call that good.
How you doing? How you doing, buddy?
Oh yeah. And
33rd, signing the contract. Am I allowed to hop on that? I don't know if I like this camera thing or not.
Yep.
Morning.
Because they exit out of the building separately.
Yeah, let's turn my radio down.
All right, we're waiting on the inspector. So in your braze, why are you looking so serious?